along in old business. So we've included the resolutions. Dated June 26th. We have that in here for a touchdown on that, right? Anyone comment?
Yeah, how do you think we should review these?
Good question.
Got the resolution, how do you think, should we check in to see if everybody feels like they're being adhered to? Should we go around the table and make sure each individual board member is abiding by the resolutions, or I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I think we'll have to start. I'm not abiding by them, and I don't see that they have any validity, so I am ignoring them.
And why is that?
Because these are not policies. This board does not govern the Hooksett School Board, and I will communicate and do other things as I see fit as a board member.
Anyone else?
Well, I can assure you that as an SAU 15 board member, I am adhering to these resolutions. We discussed them with our SAU 15 board attorney. I think that the entire board agreed that it was the will of this board that each of the board members adhere to it. So I can assure you that I'm adhering to them.
The questions that were brought up that prompted this resolution were our actions as Hooksett School Board members, not as SAU board members. So if this board wants to create policy for this board and adopt policy, then I would conduct myself as an SAU board member according to those policies. But as a Hooksett School Board member, I will follow the Hooksett School Board policy, which I do. So I don't think that you really have any bearing on 95% of my actions as a public figure, because we are here in this meetings a very small amount of that time. I am communicating with the superintendent as a Hooksett School Board member. I don't think that this SAU has any authority over this. If you think differently, please tell me where that authority comes from.
Anyone? This is all new to me.
Doesn't this board have oversight over the SAU office and employees? So our responsibility to ensure that they are being treated as is laid out in these resolutions as their employer. We have control over that.
You have control over the SAU employees, but you don't have control over board members. So what authority do you have to reach to another board to ensure that that board treats your employee the way that you would like to see it happen? That's what I'm asking for. And you don't have that authority.
We're not reaching to another board. You're a member of this SAU board.
Yes.
You're always a member of this SAU board.
Not when I act as a Hooksett School Board member, I'm not. I'm not acting in the best interest of the SAU board when I vote and act as a Hooksett School Board member. I am not considering the SAU at that point. For an SAU business, yes. Hooksett School Board business, I am not.
David, why are you and or why is Hooksett a member of the SAU?
I'm not going to answer that question. I've been on record as being preferred that we were not. I will make no bones about that. I think that if you'd like to know, I think that Hooksett is carrying the burden of the SAU at this point, and but that is not part of this discussion. This discussion is about the resolution. So let's stick to the resolution, and I'd be glad to answer any questions about the resolution.
Sure, and that's a great deflection, but I'm not going to take it.
Deflect.
Okay, you are absolutely deflecting. I'm not going to debate that. The reason I asked you the question of why is Hooksett a member of the SAU, it wasn't whether you wanted to be or not. The question was why. And I can share with you that usually the reason why is because we have shared services of the SAU. So it is in the best interest of the shared towns that we share the services. As a Hooksett board member, it's been discussed several times, as you well know, that you are monopolizing in a services of the
I object to the
SAU.
characterizations that you're
15.
making and the fact that they have nothing to do with the resolutions.
Don't cut me off when I'm speaking.
I'm
Thank
not,
you.
point of order,
You're cutting me
Chair.
off, it's
point
absolutely
of order.
rude. There's no.
Point of
issue.
what order?
She is making accusations about me here at board meeting,
You're
and I feel she is
monopolizing
off
The
subject.
SAU services and there are
You
other
say that we have
towns.
affected them in a negative manner.
You have,
I don't agree with you.
okay.
I would ask you not to say that.
Well, that's fine. But you're monopolizing the time of the SAU,
I
which is
don't
why
agree with that either.
we had to bring an attorney in, have additional costs which affected the
You
entire SAU.
did not have to bring an attorney.
You did.
Well,
You
hang on,
can
hang on
debate this all
one,
day long.
hang on one
Yes, we
second.
could.
By-
Let's get back to the motion.
By, okay,
What's
So
the
we don't have a
motion?
motion. What are we even talking about then? Because we don't have rules either. So, what would you like to know? What authority do you have as an SAU to tell me as a Hooksett school board member how many emails to send to the superintendent? That's what I'm asking. Where do you get your authority?
We're telling you as an SAU board member, not as a Hooksett board member. At this point right now, in this meeting, you are an SAU board member, and we are speaking to you as an SAU board member, not a Hooksett board member. I don't see you as a Hooksett board member, I see you as a
Sorry.
board member.
Do you know how many emails I sent the superintendent as an SAU board member? Probably one or two if I've asked him when an SAU board meeting is. I have not discussed SAU business with the superintendent. So that's my point. You're saying that we monopolized the superintendent's time. Maybe we did the books its business, but we're also 60% of the SAU. It's expected that we have more of the time with the superintendent.
Can I ask a question?
hang on, we have,
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
ladies over here would
No,
like to
I'll
speak.
defer
Who
to
would,
you.
you want to defer?
Yeah, actually, Frank, I just want to ask Dr. Littlefield, actually. Okay, so on an average 2-week period in between board meetings, how many emails do you get from the Candia board?
Usually none.
And how many from the audience?
Usually none.
Okay, so I know we had a little lull for a while this summer, maybe where things are reasonable, but on an average now, in a week, how many emails you get from the Hooksett board?
It will vary. It will vary. Sometimes several, and sometimes none.
Chair, to try
Actually,
to...
Cheryl and I had our hands up and we deferred to Mr. Duffel.
Didn't I ask the chair to speak?
You ladies need to speak, one of you two?
I would like to state that I have lived within the guidelines of the resolutions, and I am continually concerned about how the SAU staff is treated by some members of the Hooksett School Board, and I will state here publicly that after our last week's meeting, I answered more questions about the health of the superintendent than I did about anything else going on in Hooksett. With everybody. People in the grocery store, how is Dr. Littlefield? He didn't look good. How is Dr. Littlefield? He didn't look good. I am continually concerned about his, you look great tonight.
And that was my mother.
I am continually concerned about how members of the SAU staff are treated. I made a mistake in an agenda, and an employee felt they had to apologize, even though the mistake was clearly mine, and I owned it from the moment I realized that how I took something was not how the person intended it in relationship to creating an agenda.
We would say authority, but I think it's that we have a responsibility to be sure that the SAU employees feel supported by us and that they're not working within a stressful environment. And that is my concern, because if they're not working in a stressful environment, then they are creating what we want our school districts to look like. And so I do think that that is our responsibility as the SAU board, and my responsibility personally as a Hooksett school board member. And that's why I think that these resolutions were unfortunate that they had to come forward, but they did. And I do think that they are relevant in order to support, again, to support the administration, so so they can continue to do the work that we expect from them for our children. And that still concerns me greatly. I think we did have a lull over the summer where things were better, but I am nervous that things may be ramping up and that the stress levels could be climbing, and that should be a concern of all of us in the SAU, as an SAU board members.
Okay.
I've had it, but go ahead.
You first.
Oh, well, then Cheryl, this SAU board can take a vote to direct the superintendent and the SAU staff to do whatever you would like to change that environment. But you can't take a vote to change what the Hooksett School Board does to change that environment. If you want to indicate to Dr. Littlefield that you shouldn't answer emails, or you shouldn't answer phone calls, or whatever you want to do, this board can do that. Because you have authority over the administration, but you do not have authority over the Hooksett School Board. So in your want to protect, or however you want to characterize it, the administration, I object to these characterizations. I work with the administration. I work with Dr. Littlefield. We have a lot of email. We have a lot of conversation. We have a huge issue going on in Hooksett right now. You've got to expect there was last minute things that are going on. So is it good to say there's no emails? No, I say it's bad. It's bad that there's no emails because you're not communicating. So who's going to say? So this board make a motion, direct the administration to do whatever you'd like to do. But don't make a motion to direct the Hooksett School Board to do something because you don't have the authority.